This is gonna be talking about quadratics by factoring and the quadratic formula. Okay, so both of these are pretty much review, guys, but you know, that's okay. Alright, so when you guys look at quadratics by factoring, notice how I'm going to be writing the titles, you guys, of the Khan Academy assignments right here, so you know which examples will be for which type of problems. So when you guys do quadratics by factoring, you're going to see example problems like so, example 1 and example 2. So just as a reminder, your functions are going to look like this, right? So again, this is standard form. Okay, and when you guys factor, remember you have to do your x method, where the top is a times c and your bottom is your b value, and you have two numbers here, right? And the two numbers are, or the two questions are, what two numbers multiply to get a times c, whatever value that is, and two, what two numbers multiply, or sorry, what two numbers added together to get b. Alright, and this is assuming that your guys' a value is equal to 1. Okay, so let's take a look at examples 1 and 2. So for example 1, we have that, and what we're going to do is factor this right now. So let's use purple. Okay, a value is 1, your b value is -1, and your c value is -90. When you guys factor this, a times c is -90, your b value is -1. So what two numbers multiply together to give you -90, but when added gives you -1. And if you guys forgot, you always can make a factor list. 190, 245, 330, 5, and what is that? 18, 6, and 115, and 9 and 10. So out of all these factors, you can see that, okay, if I subtract or I add for this one will give you 1 at least. So we just have to figure out the sign to give us -1, which is going to be -10 and 1. -10 and 9. -10 times 9 is -90, -10 times 9 is -1. And since your a value is equal to 1, those are going to be our factors. So x minus 10 and x plus 9 is equal to 0. -10 coming from there, and 9 coming from right there. Now you guys just solve. So this is your zero product rule. So x minus 10 equals 0, or x plus 9 is equal to 0. Add 10. So x is going to equal to 10 minus 9. X is going to equal -9. Alright, example 2. Now we'll just get right into it. A is 1, b is 1, and c is -30. So x method. Two numbers that you multiply to top and bottom, it's AC, so 1 times -30, -30, be on the bottom. Two numbers that multiply to negative 3, but added gives you 1. That is 6 and negative 5. And since a is equal to 1, those are our factors. X plus 6, x minus 5 equals 0, and now you guys just solve. X plus 6 equals 0, or x minus 5 equal to 0. Subtract 6 to both sides, negative 6, add 5 to both sides, x is equal to 5. And those are you guys' two answers. So that will be the type of problems you guys will see for the first go around. Alright, now for quadratics by factoring. Now, this is the same thing, except your guys' a value is not going to be 1 for both of these. So, recall in class, you guys, I always told you guys, when it's not equal to 1, first you have to check to see if you could get out a common factor from each number. Well, this one's 3, so I asked myself, can this be divisible by 3? Can this be divisible by 3? Yes, so we're going to factor out a 3 first. So, 3 out of, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so just x squared. Negative 54 divided by 3 is 18, so that's negative 18x. 243 divided by 3 is 81. Alright, and then we just do our, look only in the parentheses, right? Disregarding that 3. A is equal to 1, B is equal to negative 18, C is equal to 81, and now we can do our x method. So A times C, 81. B on the bottom is negative 18. Two things that multiply to 81, but add gives you negative 18. That is negative 9 and negative 9. Negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. Negative 9 plus negative 9 is negative 18. And since A is equal to 1 in the parentheses, then these are going to be our factors. So 3, parentheses, x minus 9 is equal to 0. And now you guys just solve. Zero product rule, right? You disregard this number right there. X minus 9 is equal to 0, or x minus 9 is equal to 0. And as you guys can see, x is going to equal to 9 for both of them. Okay. Example 4. Alright, so A is not equal to 1 here, but you have to see, can 6 go into every single one of these terms? And it can. So we could factor out a 6 from each one. Out of 6 divided by 6, 1, so just 1x squared. Negative 18 divided by 6, negative 3, negative 3x. Negative 240 divided by 6, negative 40. And now you guys can use your x method. You're inside the parentheses, right? A is equal to 1, B is equal to negative 3, and C is equal to negative 40. Alright, factor. On the top, A times C is negative 40. On the bottom, B is negative 3. Okay. Now you guys are gonna think of two numbers that multiply to give you negative 40, but added gives you negative 3, and that's 8 and negative 8 and 5. So, and A is equal to 1, so those are going to be our factors. So 6 in parentheses, x minus 8, x plus 5 is equal to 0. And now zero product rule, you disregard the 6. So x minus 8 is equal to 0, or x plus 5 is equal to 0. Add 8 to both sides, x is equal to 8. Subtract 5 from both sides, x is equal to negative 5. Alright, now we're going to shift gears and we're going to go to our quadratic formula. So here are some things to note for quadratic formula. Let me just get this. Alright, so just recall, I'm going to write our standard form again. So standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So there's standard form, okay, you guys? So when you do quadratic formula, in order to solve for your x's using quadratic formula, you have to make sure the standard formula is equal to 0. Everything has to equal to 0. And this is your guys' quadratic formula. X is equal to, this is solving for an x, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember, this is a story, you guys. The negative boy could not decide whether to go to a rad party. The boy was squared, and he missed out on 4 awesome chicks, and the party was over all over 2 a.m. So, there's your quadratic formula, and you guys use this quadratic formula in order to solve. So, let's take a look at these examples, and let's go about this. Okay, look at example 5, right? Example 5, it's not equal to 0, and it's not even in standard form. So I'm going to subtract 9x squared from both sides first. Notice, you guys, look what's in front first. It's the x squared, right? The one with the x to the second power, so you got to put that in the front first. So negative 9x squared plus 3x is equal to negative 10. Now we gotta move the 10 over to the left hand side. So following this formula, the standard form, right? The second power comes first, so negative 9x squared. The x variable was just the first power comes second, and the constant with no variable comes last. Now we're finally ready. We're finally in quadratic formula settings. So now a is equal to negative 9, right? B is equal to 3, and C is equal to 10. And we need to use these values to plug into our quadratic formula. So x is going to equal to, I'll do it on the side. X is going to equal to negative b, our negative b is going to be negative 3, plus or minus 3 to the second, minus 4 times our a, which is negative 9, times our c, which is 10, all over 2a, which is 2 times negative 9. And then use your guys' calculators to calculate this, but I'll go one at a time. 3 squared is 9. Okay, negative 4 times negative 9 times 10 is 360. All over negative, or 2 times negative 9, which is negative 18. X is equal to negative 3 plus or minus square root of 9 times 360 is 369. All over negative 18. And see if you guys could get a square root from that, but is there a square root of that? There is not. So square root of 369, you guys, that can't simplify, so this would be your guys' answer. Okay. Let's check out example 6. Okay, so when we do example 6, okay, take a look, this is not even in standard form, and it's not even equal to 0. So first thing is we gotta move this, so let's subtract 8x squared from both sides. Negative 6x minus 1. 5 minus 8 is negative 3x squared, which is equal to 0. Now let's rearrange it so that it is in standard form. So the second power comes first, so that means negative 3x squared. The one with the x variable to the first power comes second, so we're going to put minus 6x, and minus 1 is equal to 0. We literally just rearranged this to be in standard form. We just moved them around. Alright, so standard form is equal to 0, so now our a is equal to negative 3, our b is equal to negative 6, and our c value is equal to negative 1. So I'll just write it on the bottom of here. So x is equal to, so using the formula, right, using the formula up here, r negative b is negative of negative 6 plus or minus square root of r b squared is negative 6 raised to the second power minus 4. Our c value is negative 3. Our a value is negative 3, and our c value is negative 1. All over 2 times our a, which is 2 times negative 3. Alright, x is equal to negative times negative 6 is a positive 6. Negative 6 to the second power is 36. Negative 4 times negative 3 times negative 1 is negative 12. All over 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So x is equal to 6 plus or minus square root of 24 all over negative 6. Okay. Okay, now we're going to our last section, which is number of solutions of quadratic equations. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna write down our standard form equation again, and I'm gonna write down our quadratic formula again. Okay, so we're going to be talking about something called discriminants, okay, you guys? And a discriminant tells you how many solutions there are for quadratic equations. So we have b squared minus 4ac. This is the discriminant, okay? And this, you guys, will tell you how many solutions you're going to have. So in a radical sign, in a square root, if you have a positive number, it's going to give you 2 solutions. So if b squared minus 4ac, you guys, is greater than 0, then that means you're going to have 2 solutions. And 2 solutions, you guys, means you have 2 x values, you have 2, sorry, not x values, you have 2 x-intercepts, you have 2 zeros, or you got 2 roots. Which is the same thing as having 2 solutions, okay? If your b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, then that means you only have 1 solution, which means you only have 1 x-intercept, 1 root, 1 0, or 1 place that crosses the x-axis, okay? And if your b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, that means you have 0 solutions. Which means you don't have any x-intercepts, you don't have any roots, or you don't have any zeros. Okay? So let's take a look at example 7. So in example 7, how many solutions does this have? Well, solutions are if they cross the x-axis and how many times, right? That's why we get x-intercepts, zeros, and roots. So when you guys take a look at example 7, how many times does that graph cross the x-axis? 0. So that means for this one, there's 0 solutions. Look at the next one. How many solutions does this graph have? AKA, how many x-intercepts, how many roots, how many zeros does this have? It has 2. 1, 2. Which means this is going to have 2 solutions. How about this one? Well, this one has this has 1 solution right there. It crosses the x-axis just 1 time. So this is going to have 1 solution. So discriminant wise, right, this one would be positive. This one would be if the discriminant was 0. And this one would be if the discriminant was negative. Remember, if the discriminant is positive, it has 2 solutions. If the discriminant is negative, it has 0 solutions, and if discriminant is equal to 0, then it has 1 solution. So this would be 0. Okay? And then you guys will have examples like example 8. And I'm going to bring this up a little bit so that you guys can see. Okay, so example 8, they'll ask, what is the discriminant of this? So what you have to do is b squared minus 4ac. And we have to solve for that. So our a value is 3, our b value is 12, and our c value is 5. So when we find the discriminant, we have 12 to the second minus 4 times 3 times 5. 144 minus 60. 144 minus 60, you guys, is 84. 84 is greater than 0. So since 84 is greater than 0, that means we have this one, right? Our discriminant is positive. So since it's positive, that means we have 2 solutions. So again, if it's positive, you have 2 solutions. If your discriminant is equal to 0, then you have 1 solution. And if your discriminant is negative, you have 0 solutions. So that's it for you guys' notes, and I'll see you guys around.